Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
It's so great to have you.
I know. I'm so excited to be here.
We've been looking forward to this for a really long time.
I know. It's been a great year of creating.
It has. It really has.
Can't believe we're already here.
I know. So this is an exciting day because it is the launch day for the Women in the Arena podcast.
Yes.
How are you feeling about that?
I'm so excited. So excited. I was on my tumultuous drive up I-95 thinking about just the amazing slate of women we have. And I'm just so thankful to be here for the Iron Butterfly team and also for the time of these ladies just carving out to contribute to the start of something so cool. So excited.
Totally. Yeah, it is really exciting. And we're so excited that you're doing this with us.
Yes.
Awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about Women in the Arena in a little bit, but I think we also just wanted to kick this season off with you because we thought it would be a really special way to start and just help people kind of get to know you a little bit better. So typically kind of our first question is just like the hardest question in the world, which is like, tell us yourself. Tell us about yourself. Tell us your story.
The first job interview question that's so awkward.
That you have like no idea where to start and changes by the day.
My name is Sarah Scully. I'm an Army veteran, recently transitioned out of active duty last summer. It feels like it was just yesterday, but coming up on a year. And currently living in Wilmington, North Carolina, in a little beach town that I love. And I'm fortunate to live and work there at a software company there. Manage a property management business there, and I'm just really passionate about getting connected with organizations that connect people and contribute to the greater good, which is why I'm so grateful to be a part of Iron Butterfly Media, because that's exactly what you all do. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I know that you love North Carolina.
I do.
What do you love about it?
Let me start with most of my family's in North Carolina now, which is funny because I was raised in Massachusetts, but we've all kind of flocked down there, which is really funny. But I'm one of 6 children, the oldest of 6 children. 5 of us are there now, which is such a blessing. So I love having my family all together. That is just, especially after time in the military, that's just priceless and such a gift. But I love that we have a little bit of everything there. We have the beach, the mountains, cities, just so much to do, and have fallen in love with it. So
what was it like growing up with a big family?
Oh my gosh, chaos. I have I always call it a Brady Bunch family. So I have one brother that I have the same biological parents with, and then 2 stepbrothers and 2 half siblings. So my parents, my mom and my stepdad, who I call my parents, had 2 children together. So I went from 1 sibling to 5 in a few years, which is a lot.
That's awesome.
It just teaches you so much about being selfless and communication and having fun. And I'd say we're all just so different and so unique. But when we come together, it's this kind of homogenous blend of fun. And my siblings are some of my greatest friends. So that they are just some of my favorite people.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us about your path to the military. Like, was this something that you always knew you were going to do or always wanted to do? Okay, so tell us how you got into the military.
If any of my high school friends hear this, they will probably giggle because no, I was not from a military family. I was not, in my mind, somebody that would ever enter into the military. But being one of 6 children, I had to find a way to help supplement paying for my education. And I think I always wanted to serve. I just didn't know what that looked like or how that would manifest. And my mom came to me my senior year of high school and was like, hey, have you heard of an ROTC scholarship? And I had seen Cadet Kelly as a kid, and I loved that movie. So throwback I'm just Cadet thinking Kelly. No, I'm not like going away to some overnight boot camp, like military academy situation. I want to go to an SEC school and have fun and have a traditional college experience. And she's like, well, you can kind of have the best of both worlds. You can pursue your education and have a career after. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, this isn't going to work out, but I'm just going to be agreeable and just go for it. And so I interviewed for an ROTC scholarship. I still look back on that story and laugh because I was interviewing with a colonel at the time, and I don't think I knew what a colonel was or what an officer was, but I knew that I had a great opportunity in front of me. It was just such a new world, and I was a kid. I was 17 years old at the time. I didn't know anything about the world outside of my little bubble in Massachusetts. And so I said yes and started the program at the University of South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina, and I fell in love with it. It was just such a seamless fit for me. I was always really involved in high school and liked staying busy, and ROTC really gave me that structure and kind of kept me on a glide path towards something that I knew was going to be really great. Met some of the greatest people, some of the greatest friends, had busy summers, sometimes filled with not super fun training, but I got to do some pretty cool stuff like go to airborne school and jump out of planes when I was in college, which is just wild to think about. And so, no, it was not a traditional journey, but it's one of those where you look back on it and you think, if this hadn't been put in my lap or if this door hadn't opened, where would I be? This is just such a part of my identity now.
Yeah, that's awesome. You talked about it being like a seamless fit for you. Like, what is it about the military that was that for you? Like, what was it that just drew you and that you love so much about it?
I think from a young age, I always loved trying something different. And to me, at the time, that was so different. I was not from a community where serving in the military was super common. And I wanted to do something that felt like it mattered. And that felt like it mattered. It felt like I was contributing to something that mattered. And then I'll go back to the chaos of growing up with 6 children. I mean, you just get used to just acclimating and being around people all the time and kind of a controlled chaos that's really great. And so life in the military is incredibly unpredictable, but it's an adventure. And that was my childhood. It was an adventure with my siblings. And so it felt like another continuous adventure. And my time on active duty, I was so fortunate to move every year or two. It was hard at the time, but I got to see different parts of the country and meet different people. And I think just that continuation of adventure and then just wanting, like I said, to be a part of something that felt like it mattered and felt like it was bigger than me.
Yeah, totally. So tell us what you actually did in the military.
Yeah,
like, what did your military career look like?
Yeah, so I made a conscious effort when I was a lieutenant. So when I first started, where I said, I'm going to say yes to everything and just kind of go as fast as I can with this and do as much as I can because I don't know how long I'll be on active duty. So when I commissioned, I started off as a medical service corps officer, which is basically like logistics and operations, but from the side of medicine in the Army. And so I was really, I think I'm so fortunate that I got to start in an armor battalion, so in a tank battalion as a support element. That's the best way to learn about how the Army functions, to be at the point of impact if you're in a support role and just see how that works day in and day out. And so I was a platoon leader for 2 years in that role in Fort Carson, Colorado. I got to deploy when I was in that role, which was great, and then came back, served on a cultural support team, which is another support element in special operations. That was a really great experience for about a year. I was fortunate to deploy to Afghanistan in that role. Came back, was an aide for a general officer here in the DC, Virginia area for an amazing woman who we can hopefully bring on at some point to this podcast. And then ended my active duty service in a company command role in recruiting. So I got to kind of touch a lot of different things. It's always a hard question to say, like, oh, what did you do? Because I felt like I was really fortunate to just dabble in things that interested me. And that's a testament to the fact that I had really great bosses, really, really great mentors that encouraged me and allowed me to take a hold of those opportunities and said, go for it. Just try it out, and believed in me. So yeah, so I feel really fortunate for all those diverse experiences and getting to kind of try a bunch of different things out.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I think for a lot of civilians, like, that type of variety is pretty rare. So It's pretty cool that you got that.
Right.
Are there like a couple memories that stick out to you as like when when you remember back to those times, you kind of feel like a sense of purpose or like really fulfilled by what it is that you got to do?
Yeah. I think there's a huge connection between this podcast and that question. Over the past year after transitioning out of active duty, anybody that leaves active duty will tell you such a time of reflection, thinking about the people and the places and the jobs and the experiences. And one thing that really stood out was the women I met. which I think is so crazy, going back to the, did you always think about joining the military? Because you think, when I was 17, I never envisioned joining the Army and meeting women. I just, like I said, envisioned that Cadet Kelly boot camp, being yelled at by a drill sergeant experience that I, learned from movies. And so I made a lot of really great female friends and got to work for some amazing women, men too. But I think that was something I really walked away with, was the friendships that I made. Even going back to college in ROTC, I had great girlfriends I met in that program. And then when I was serving on the cultural support team, that was an all-female team, which again, so unique, not what you think or experience from what you think you'd experience from the Army. And when I had that thought in the past year, I thought, okay, how can I highlight this? There are so many amazing women that I've met, and they have such diverse experiences and backgrounds and have contributed in such meaningful ways. And that was kind of the light bulb moment for this podcast, was honoring them and connecting with even more women that have so much to share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that answer. And can you talk a little bit more about some of the work that you did with the cultural support teams too? Because I know it's really special to you.
Yeah, so the cultural support teams were born out of the need for a support element for special operations to help safeguard and question women in operations on the ground. There's a cultural sensitivity to men and women communicating in a lot of those countries that we were in. And so the program was born out of that need. And the program also very uniquely trained a female element in the Afghan army that was doing the same thing, called the Female Tactical Platoon. And in season 1 of the Women in the Arena podcast, we're going to talk to one of those Afghan female service members, which will be awesome. So we were trained to basically communicate with and safeguard women on targets in other countries, supporting special operations on the ground. And so it was a super unique role. Like I said, all-female team that are embedded in different special operations groups, continued for a very long time up until our withdrawal out of Afghanistan in 2021.
I really love your story and the fact that you talked a lot about reflecting on the opportunities that you had to serve with women, because it's not just U.S. women that you were serving with. Yeah. And I wonder, it seems like maybe there were some misconceptions with Cadet Kelly that formed your view of what it actually meant to be a woman in the military. Do you still feel some of those misconceptions by others? And how do you think that the stories that people will hear through the Women in the Arena is going to change some of that perception?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, like anything, there's always stereotypes of any industry. And I think if somebody were to envision a woman veteran, they would probably picture someone very serious and kind of in a box of a certain personality. And we are such a diverse group of women, not just in our backgrounds, but who we are day to day, what we're interested in, how we've contributed to the military, how we've contributed to other spaces of our lives. And that's cross-cultural. And one thing that I'm really excited about with the Women in the Arena is that we will be doing bonus episodes with women from foreign militaries to highlight the incredible diversity and contributions around the world of these women. And even, going back to Afghan women, I mean, you picture Afghanistan, a country that has historically been not as open to women serving in lots of capacities, including the military. So most people don't even know that women were allowed to serve in Afghanistan, and they definitely don't know much about how special those women are and how unique they are. So that's one thing I really hope to illuminate, is just our diversity and the amazing things that we've done, not only in this military, but around the world.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So when we started this episode, you talked a little bit about how it's been a year of creating. And I think for you, that's certainly true. For Iron Butterfly, that's certainly true.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about you told us a little bit about the motivation to start the podcast, but what has the process of creating this been like for you?
Well, let me start with, it's been great because of you all. We were fortunate to work on another project together before this podcast. And when I think back to moments in time where you have a mindset shift about something. I think that project and meeting the Iron Butterfly team and then women from the Command Purpose Foundation, it inspired me to create. I think sometimes in our own heads, we just think that certain things aren't possible for us, whether that's creating a podcast, starting a company, running for Congress. These are things that other people do. They're not things I do. And you all are creators and you're doers, because I think it was in a most recent podcast on Iron Butterfly where we said a lot of people can think of an idea, but very few people put it into action. You guys put things into action. And so being a part of this group has made the process beautiful because you did so much legwork to make your own idea start. And you guys are supportive and just create an environment where things can come to life. But it's been really awesome. I've been networking with some women. Some of the women that we're bringing in are people that I've known before, and then some are women that are new connections for me. And it's just been really cool to see people get interested and excited about telling their own story. I think that storytelling is a mutually inspiring thing, or it should be. It's not always, but it should be. And for many people, they've never told their story before. So they're telling their story to thousands of listeners, but they're also being inspired themselves because they're empowered by putting things into words that they never have before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see that every day.
Yeah.
And I think what's been really cool about this process for us is, we had people reach out to us over the years, because we started Iron Butterfly in 2020, and ask for advice on how to start their own podcast. And, what I love about Megan is that she's like one of the most generous people in the world. And so we would have all these conversations with all these people and like basically just say, hey, here's everything that you need to know. Right. Yeah. And so I think when you had originally asked us to have a conversation, we were kind of expecting something like that. And it was really special for us because instead what you said was like, I want to create something with you.
Yeah.
And for us, that was monumental because it was like the first time that somebody had actually done that for us.
Yeah.
So I think it's amazing on both sides because it's, I think, expanded our view of like what's possible with Iron Butterfly and like how we can, of course, support other people who, have their own dreams and who want to create, but that we can also support them in doing that together.
Right. We talk a lot about the butterfly effect, and I think that Iron Butterfly Media opening an umbrella to new industries and groups of women is a perfect example of that. And there's so many similarities between women of the intelligence community and women of the military, having a service-focused mindset and just being willing to do something great and put yourself out there. And that's what the Women in the Arena is about. It's about putting yourself in the arena, and whether you fail or not, just daring to do it.
You mentioned a little bit about kind of why you called this the Women in the Arena.
Yeah.
But tell me about why that name is so special to you and where it comes from.
So this is obviously part of the iconic Man in the Arena speech by Theodore Roosevelt. But the connection to that speech comes from, so when I was training and part of the selection process to be on the cultural support teams, I had a roommate at the time when I was in training, and her and I were big quote people, like quotes, poems, all that. And, it was an exhausting few months. Any military selection or training is. And so we were reading the Man in the Arena, the excerpt of that speech, and we thought, let's make it the Women in the Arena because women need a speech like this too. And that friend actually wrote out the excerpt of the poem and replaced it with women and kind of like drew and did this beautiful little drawing of it for me. And I still have it and look at it all the time. And I've always reflected on that. And at that time, that excerpt was so fitting for what we were doing. We felt like we were constantly putting ourselves out there and being reminded that we could fail, but just doing it anyway and just believing in ourselves and believing in each other. And I love the idea of being in the arena, just in whatever that means. It doesn't have to be military service. It doesn't even have to be work. It can be parenting. It can be starting a podcast. It can be starting a business. It can be, running your first half marathon. You're putting yourself out there and not thinking about the possible failure or what critics say, because you're the one that's trying. And most people just sit on the sidelines of the arena their whole life. They don't step out and try something great. So there are so many women doing that, especially in our military. And some of them are doing it currently in their service. And then some of them have left the service and are doing it in amazing ways post-military service with their new endeavors. And I'm so excited to highlight that.
Yeah, I really love that. It's like being a woman in the arena is like a state of mind.
Yes.
It's like a state of being. It's like what you're constantly doing.
Yeah.
Which I really love. I think we can all learn something from that.
Yeah.
Particularly from women in the military who I think have obviously been in the arena and have grown in the arena. And like I think there's so much for all women who want to lead, to learn from women like you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what they can expect on season 1 of Women in the Arena.
So much. We have such a diverse group of ladies that we're bringing on in so many ways. We are going to be speaking to women that are approaching 30 years of military service, and we're going to be talking to people that served for 3 or 4 years, but then went on and pursued something incredible because through their military service, they learned that they could do anything. We'll be talking to women across branches of the military, officers and enlisted, women that are running for Congress. We're going to speak to somebody that served in the Afghan army as a woman. Really, it's going to be a super diverse group of women, but that highlights just how many stories like that are out there. We're not all the same, so.
Totally. I'm so excited. I can't wait for season 1.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot at Iron Butterfly about our dream sessions. So as you've probably heard Megan and I talk about, we basically dreamed up Iron Butterfly like in Megan's backyard during COVID, socially distanced from one another.
Yep.
And we never could have expected that it would have become what it has become. And I think we're grateful for that every day. For you, if, you obviously have dreamed up this idea, like this Women in the Arena idea, like what are your hopes and dreams for like what Women in the Arena can become and like who you can reach and like what you really want to build this to be?
That's such a great question. Going back to mutual inspiration, I want the guests of this show to walk away empowered and inspired by sharing their stories. And I'm excited to see the butterfly effect of listeners that will be inspired by what these women have to share. And I'm just so excited to reach, like I said, just the different people that have such different experiences. Something I loved about the military was it was such a melting pot of people. And I didn't grow up in a very diverse community. And that extends beyond even race or religion, but just diversity and backgrounds, where you're from, what you believe in, what you're interested in. And I'm just excited to share that. It was something that was very important for me to be exposed to at the age that I was. And with that comes such a special group of people with so much to share. And I'm so excited to highlight that. And going back to what we were talking about with misconceptions, just shatter any misconceptions of what it means to be a female service member in our military or in a foreign military. And I'm also really excited for the bonus episodes to show those connections cross-culturally that do exist. Connecting with Afghan women in the Afghan army really taught me that we share so much more than we think we do. And there's such a sisterhood and friendship that's born out of military service that extends cross-culturally. And it's going to be really cool to highlight that too.
Awesome. So last question. We're at the end,
Yes.
But I'm curious who your Woman in the Arena is.
I have so many, and it's so hard to pick. But I'm going to actually cheat and pick 3 for different reasons, which is not fair, but I'm going to do it anyways. My mom is my original Woman in the Arena, which is probably an easy gimme question, but my mom is the one that believed that I could join the military and was my cheerleader through every up and down that came through my military service and has continued to support me in everything I do. She's been a woman in the corporate world since she was itty bitty 21, 22-year-old and has had to put herself out there in so many ways and dare greatly. And she taught me what it meant to do that, what that meant when I was a young girl. And had I not had her, I would have never believed in myself like I have. And she's a mom of 6 kids, so she just deserves kudos for that all day, every day. And she's a great mom. And then my military woman in the arena is General Paula Lodi, who was my old boss, who I was fortunate to work for as an aide. What an experience getting to work for a female general officer. There's not that many out there, and getting to do that as a lieutenant was such a great experience. Seeing her constantly put herself out there and lead in such a meaningful, genuine way. And she's just somebody that, in all avenues of her life, not just her military service, but her personal life as a wife and a mother and a friend, just always gives everything her all and is just an exemplary person. And then my last woman in the arena that is not family or not military is Mel Robbins. I have a huge girl crush on Mel Robbins. She actually was who inspired me to want to start a podcast, complementary to connecting with you and Megan. I love her podcast because she illuminates so many great people that have so much to share about a variety of topics. But going back to the woman in the arena idea, this is somebody that started a podcast later in life and had no experience in media at the time, but just said, hey, I'm going to try this thing and I'm going to start a business. And it's become one of the most popular, well-known podcasts on Apple and Spotify. And I love the way she engages her listeners. And she always encourages her listeners, if they have an idea, to just go out and do it and don't look back. And that's what we're talking about here with being in the arena. So she's my last one.
Awesome. We should manifest a collab with Mel Robbins.
Yeah, I'm going to send her some fan mail here very soon. So hopefully she reads it. But yeah, I think she will. She seems like she does. And she's just such a genuine person. She's also a fellow Boston girl. So I also love that connection
Boston
too.
Connection.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being our season 1 episode premiere of Women in the Arena. Thank you for bringing us this idea. Thank you for creating this from the ground up. And thank you for trusting us to build it with you.
Well, thank you for bringing me in. This team is amazing. I know I've said this before, but every meeting we have and time we come together, I walk away energized. And who can say that about meetings? Because all people do is go to meetings these days. But I'm like, yes, we're getting together. I love it. And you guys are builders and doers and creators, and you empower people to chase after everything that they believe in. So thank you for bringing me in. I'm so excited.
Of course. And stay tuned for season 1.
Yay. So exciting.